On Saturday night, a male driver drove his SUV through people attending the Lapu Lapu Day block party, injuring many and at the time of recording, tragically killing 11. Our thoughts are with all of those affected by this senseless act, and especially those within the Filipino community.
Welcome to the C4 Canucks Hockey Podcast.
Every week, they talk about the Vancouver Canucks with a fair amount of nonsense thrown in.
Sure, they're never the first with the news, nor the best connected, and definitely more off the rails than on.
But they've been talking puck the longest, and that counts for something, right?
So strap in for the longest running, best mediocre Canucks Hockey Podcast.
It's C4 with Chris and Anna.
Hello, Anna.
Hi, Chris. How you doing?
I'm okay. How about yourself?
Yeah, I think okay is about as good as we can manage. Yeah, pretty terrible weekend for our city. But in general, okay. The weather's good. The blossoms are still here, so.
It is. We're supposed to see a change in the weather for Monday, so our listeners could very well be asking,
What do you mean?
Weather?
Yeah, but I'm hoping it's going to get back to being sunny. So, it's my birthday on Tuesday. As
Happy
old
birthday in advance.
Thanks.
You're turning, 23?
Yeah, let's go with that.
Not a day past 24. Yeah. The Canucks, they haven't been playing hockey for quite some time. I mean, when we last recorded, there were still 2 games left. Not that they mattered at all.
No, apparently not. I went to one, so I can report that it didn't.
We're going to get into a little bit of what's happened since, not so much those 2 games, because let's be honest, they could have won them, they could have lost them. It mattered very little in the grand scheme of things. But we have heard all of the players in the front office all talk to the media, and we've got some stuff to sort of maybe touch on. The baby Canucks, they've got playoff hockey. We'll talk a little bit about that. There's going to be another hockey team here in Vancouver, Anna. That's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
So there is sort of hockey news for Vancouver.
Yes, just not much about the Canucks, but that's still stuff to get into.
Yeah, I've been, as I was talking to one of my neighbors, who are you cheering for, Chris? I'm like, I didn't realize the hockey season still going. I mean, it's been over for me now.
Yeah,
I'm full on Whitecaps mode right now. Like,
yeah, valid.
The
There you go.
Whitecaps
Another
FC.
exciting Vancouver sports story.
Yeah, like, just to catch our listeners up who tune in for hockey because they're big Whitecaps fans. The Vancouver Whitecaps FC are doing unimaginable things right now. Like they are statistically the best team in Major League Soccer. They are currently up 2-0 going into the second leg of the CONCACAF Club Championship against Inter Miami. Inter Miami brought their A squad. They played Messi and Suarez, and it really didn't matter because neither of them added up to Brian White.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, like, I don't know what I was more shocked by, Messi actually, like, going on the pitch or the result. But, yeah, pretty exciting day.
Yeah, so the Vancouver Whitecaps, they're doing their thing. It's, if you think about how the Vancouver Canucks performed the season past,
yes,
they were like,
that's
like
the vibes.
Top level. Yeah, these good vibes. But there's one big difference. Vancouver was playing well beyond their means. Like, the fancy stats did not support the results that Vancouver was getting. The Vancouver Whitecaps, however, they are, like, by all metrics, squeezing every ounce out of them and seeing success. So the effort is there. The dominance is there. Like, they're leading the league in most categories. I did not know a Vancouver sports team could have this level of success.
If you want to know more about why that is, sign up to an interesting newsletter.
Do you remember its name?
From 231.
Yeah, from 231. I would say go to from231.ca.
There you go.
But apparently, the domain is causing issues because I have it auto-forwarded to sign up to the newsletter service I'm using. So the actual easier link is buttondown.email/from from 231, from 231. But, if you reach out to me, I would be more than happy to send you the direct link. But yeah, we're not going to talk about the Vancouver Whitecaps anymore, at least for the next 20 minutes or so, because you know me, I'm going to find a way to weasel them into this podcast. But let's dive into Rewind. If there was one positive out of the end of season press conference, Philip Roenick and Jeff Patterson did not get into a fist fight.
Yeah. That is a positive. Like, there were actually, as far as I'm aware, no fist fights.
Yeah, no fist fights. And we're not implying that this has happened. It never has.
But yeah, it's true. If any, combination of journalists and player were to get into a fist fight, it would probably be those two, you think? No. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe. J-Pat can get pretty spiky when he needs to.
Yeah, but, maybe fist fight a little too much. Because, Roenick doesn't seem to be the guy who's going to go throw down with J-Pat. But it was obvious, 2 seasons previous, J-Pat was suffering no fools, and Philip Roenick was not playing the fool, but was suffering no J-Pats.
Yes.
So...
excellent turn of phrase, yeah. And I actually really like what J-Pat had to say on his stint on our friends at Canucks Conversation, because he was very fair about, I feel like a lot of the hate or a lot of the discussion after the press conference was directed towards Pedersen's spikiness, which, undeniable, it was there. Mm-hmm. And I think J-Pat kind of raised the point that Pedersen, although has not been, forthcoming, has been pretty, calm throughout every other sort of needled press conference, and Philip Roenick is probably one of the spikiest players that he's ever had to deal with, and, so, maybe I'm being a bit unfair there, but yeah, basically, is not just Pedersen. But I like that, if no one saw it, Pedersen was pretty spiky in his responses, and maybe he didn't take the ownership that people wanted to see over his performance.
Yeah, he didn't truly own what he could do to improve upon his sort of season play. Now, you can't go back in the past and fix what is done. It is done. But, a lot of the questions were around why did he think there was a drop-off? Why did he think, or what did he think he needs to do differently to change things for next season? And, I would argue that he was almost served some softballs with the opportunity to utilize the issue between him and JT Miller, the possibility of injuries setting back his offseason or dealing with injuries over the course of the season. He did none of that. He said that the issue between him and JT was blown out of proportion.
Yeah, of course.
He said
they really respect each other's teammates.
Yeah, he said, a mature answer, but, I think everyone understands that.
And on the whole JTPD thing, Rick Tocchet got asked a lot about that. And I will say that I found some of the questions, usually I'm very much, up for people challenging. But I found a couple of questions out of line, maybe just on my reading of the JTPD situation. And if I was Rick Tocchet, and I was very sure I was coming back next year, or fairly sure, I would say, JT Miller is not my concern. Pedersen is my concern. That's my player. And, go forward like that. But he was very even-handed and, not that I expected him to trash JT or anything, but with the direction of the questions, I thought that was an opportunity for Rick Tocchet to say, I'm concerned on making my player better, not, what happened with him and someone that no longer plays for this team.
Yeah, but I mean, I want to talk about Tocchet separately. But,
Yes.
that sort of ties in here because, going back to Petey, I mean, it felt like he, again, was given opportunities to excuse some of his play or say, like he could have taken that, looped in. He doesn't have to go and say, oh, yeah, JT Miller, stole all of my red M&Ms or something like that. But the fact remains that he had he acknowledged his play wasn't where it needs to be, but he provided nothing that suggested there was a reason why it would be held back, and then challenged the suggestion that he needs to change his off-season training regime, that he needs to become a stronger player, that he needs to that he doesn't have that compete. Those are the parts where that I think for me there is some concern. Like you could see clear as day there was a good period of time where Petey, not that he was checked out, but he wasn't checked in.
Yeah.
And not to say that we didn't see these moments. Like there was that period of time when JT Miller took a leave of absence. Petey's game elevated.
Yeah.
We talked about it on the show.
And obviously right before his injury.
Right
and
before his last injury.
Honestly, that's what I know when a player's being that, I don't have the right word for it, but negative in response to your questions. Maybe it doesn't encourage you to delve further, but I kind of wish someone was just like, well, you'll play during this period. Like, right before your injury, it seemed to be going well. What made it successful?
I was the same player throughout.
But and again, that would be on Pedersen to give a better answer. But
I think some of what Petey is now going to face, and I mean, there's going to be a lot of questions over the course of the offseason. Again, I'm not trying to manifest anything here, but if he continues to be a Vancouver Canuck into next season, I don't think he's really come to the realization that he is now, the face, the star, the contract. Like, yes, Quinn is number one in every which direction.
Which was made very clear.
Right. But he is also the captain. That comes with the territory. The captain isn't the only person who is going to face tough questions. Petey wears an A.
Yeah.
And, you don't want the A doesn't necessarily mean you don't get the heat either, right? Like it just, it does. I don't think it's really clicked to him that he needs to now somewhat adjust how he approaches. I don't know, obviously, what conversations the Sedins have had with Elias Pettersson. And I'm not trying to say that Petey has to be an entirely different person, but being short, with the media, when you are going to be a spokesperson, you are going to be the face of a franchise, is going to serve you very poorly. And, I know there are some, the media in Vancouver, they're the worst. They're trying to stir things up. First and foremost, Vancouver media are not the worst.
No.
Let's make that very clear. Like it is, there's more pressure, right? You can't avoid some of them, but in the same breath, they're asking valid questions.
Yeah.
Like,
and I think they're very fair.
Up.
And considering, like the cuts and the lack of media, a lot of road games, Canucks have had a very easy ride for the last couple of years. So I think,
but
I don't think there was much else from the rest of the players, honestly.
Quinn said he was disappointed. I mean, and this is like watching Quinn talk about things. Like you could tell it wears on him. I think he takes his role as captain seriously.
He takes everything seriously.
As a leader, seriously. Like everything is.
I've barely seen him smile.
On like the weight of everything is on him. Mm-hmm. And you could, if you never truly understood that, watch that press conference. Watch him, like Bo Horvat, the captain previous. He dealt with things differently, different person, but it never appeared like the weight of everything was dragging Bo down.
Yeah, and I do think that is like, I think there's no way he didn't feel like that given the challenges Bo Horvat had to feel, but he was very robotic. Robot Bo, that, and like,
Yeah,
he
well,
was,
we get Quinn,
that's
you
who
see
he
it.
was.
Like there's no hiding there.
Yeah.
And you know,
He feels
this is not a knock
all
on
his
him,
feelings.
right? It is it's perfectly fine that he is as transparent as he is. But when he is everything that your organization is about, and we'll get into that in a moment, it's not what you as a fan are necessarily inspired by. And again, I'm not trying to knock Quinn here. He is the best player the Vancouver Canucks have had in forever, if not ever. I mean, awards were handed out. He pretty much was the best goaltender. Like he you know.
Yeah.
But you know, it was tough for me to watch, not because I was upset, but it worries me about the future.
Yeah. He is the epitome of the meme, girl good at her job is rewarded with more job. Mm-hmm. That's Quinn.
Yeah. So Tocchet, you mentioned, you know, Tocchet dealt with some questions that were maybe not as appropriate as they could have been. Tocchet, though, prior to, well, actually, I guess we didn't know the situation as it was when he actually met, because the front office, Alvin and Rutherford, they didn't go and talk to media the same day as everyone else. No, they held on to that info for a few days. They just let things simmer.
Yeah.
But Tocchet in his press conference came across as someone who wasn't sure what the future held. And, you know, we talked about this. The team held an option. They wanted him back long term. But, you know, the team could just say, we're going to extend you for a year because we've already got you under contract. So it felt like Tocchet didn't know how candid he could be. He seemed to be more reserved. And, you know, Tocchet is, you know, as far as coaches go, a relatively straightforward, candid coach. Yeah, there are things he holds close.
But yeah, he's pretty upfront.
But yeah, he like, I think most media within the market will tell you, yeah, he talks to you like normal. He's not the Alain Vigneault, it's a body injury kind of approach.
Yeah.
Tocchet would be straight up. But I don't think we really got a whole lot out of him. He didn't really talk to why this season the systems did not work as well as they did the season previous. Questions came up about offense. He talked about the team, making mistakes, not following the game plan consistently, and that needs to change. He spoke about how some of the players needed to, not refocus or rethink, but reinvigorate in the off season to come to camp ready.
Yeah.
Which I think was more of a, hey, Petey, sup?
Yeah.
There wasn't, I can't think of any other player that would fit the mold of that particular point.
And there was kind of a lot of praise for, the new players, especially, Hito and Pedersen. I do think, Marcus Pedersen, I think that he must, and this is not a slight on Marcus Pedersen, who seems very affable, nice guy, but, I think he must mean more in the room than he does to fans currently. Because I would say there isn't a big connection there yet. He's a kind of shy, retiring Swede. But, they slapped a nail on his chest and can't stop talking about his leadership. And I'm I barely heard him speak before. But hopefully that'll sort of grow next year. Yeah. I will say, in general, he was pretty honest, he can be. But yeah, he definitely was being careful with what he said. Yeah. Which is kind of fair.
And then, as I said, those pressers percolate for a spell. And then Rutherford and Alvin sit in front of the microphones. And
Which, yeah.
we've already learned, so in the time it took for the first press conferences to the front office coming out, the team has decided to allow Tocchet to explore opportunities. They would love him back, but they did not feel it was fair that they go and extend his contract with the team option when he doesn't want to be here.
Which we've kind of always said was like a bad move, that you never want to force your coach.
Well, yeah, and I mean, you and I spoke in the last few episodes where if they activate the team option and things don't turn around, you don't want to fire them because, or at least ownership won't be willing to pay, right? Like,
and let's be honest, notorious
cheap
cheapskates.
Well.
That's how the rich stay rich.
That came up in the conversation after the press conference. I think it was Elliot Friedman that had provided this information. It might have been Rick Dollival. I can't remember who. It sounds like ownership has said that Tocchet, who, by all intents wants to get paid. He wants to be one of the highest paid coaches in the NHL. I don't know. I'm going to be honest. I don't know if he deserves that amount of money, but I'm never going to fault someone for getting the bag.
Yes, 100%.
You get it all. And if you were to say, well, are you down on Tocchet? No, like, look at his resume. He's had a very, up and down experience in Vancouver. He had one really good season. And by all accounts, like, as coaches go, players will, run into a wall for him.
Yeah.
That speaks highly. But, he's not seen a lot of success in any of his stops outside of one good season in Vancouver.
Yeah. And I would say usually I have concerns about him. I do feel like he gives some players longer leashes than they deserve, and while some players have incredibly short leashes, Niels Höglander, and I think he can be too combative at some points. But one big plus, which I think overrides everything, is Hughes likes him.
Yeah, Quinn loves him.
And then that's kind of all you need in your plus column.
But where I was going was that, the word came out that the owners have told the front office, you can play to the cap or you can pay for a coach and play below the cap. Like the quote-unquote organizational budget.
Hold to ransom given their obsession with making the playoffs.
Yeah, like I wonder, because like if you consider where are the Vancouver Canucks right now, they are possessing at the moment one center. I mean, yes, they have more than that, but one center that doesn't have a lot of question marks. But there's been so much, heat to the possibility the team might look to trade Petey, and then you don't have any center. So now, if let's say you've paid for Tocchet, and you've now been told, by the way, your salary cap is actually depressed as a result because we can't afford this. How do you go out into free agency and find 3 to 4 NHL caliber centers, a first line center? Right? Like there's so many things that this team, faces with the player personnel side that I don't know if they can afford to even bring Tocchet back. That's not to say they can't. They should try and they should make every effort, but it is just weird. So, I mean, that needs to play itself out. And now that there are multiple teams who are, quote unquote, hot for Tocchet.
Yeah, maybe they saw that video of him making spaghetti and they were like, yeah, we like that guy.
But,
yeah, seeing as, the Rangers are not hiring John Tortorella after all, which, by the way, would have been entertaining as hell, but, a disaster, surely. But one which I'd be okay with. Him and JT...
Maybe they'd get along.
I think they'd get along great until they didn't.
Oh, yeah. No, it'd be so in, C4 Discord, I shared the, Gangs of New York Night Fight gif, and because, the topic had come up, how long does it take I'm like, oh, right away, man. That's just like when it doesn't. Whew, let me tell you. But yeah, Miller liked Tocchet. Tocchet liked Miller. Mm-hmm. Anyhow, we're not on a Rangers podcast. Alvin had talked about how, they need to make some adjustments. They're probably going to have to make deals, trades. He acknowledged that trying to fix the team through free agency is financially not something the team is going to be in a position to do. It's not to say they're not going to be
because they're going to spend it all on Tom Wielander, maybe, hopefully.
Oh, that's the other thing that like around the league, no one understands why Wielander's not yet signed.
Yeah, and I will say, it's hard because Canucks fans are notorious for panicking over nothing. But yeah, it is odd. It's an odd situation.
They're like $200,000 apart.
Yeah.
Which isn't a lot of money.
Yeah.
I mean,
so,
it is a lot of money.
It is to you and I, but it's not to property moguls. And if you were like Tom Wielander's, presume he doesn't have agent, what are they called, advisors?
Advisor, yeah. Because until you go pro, you
although,
don't have an agent.
to me,
no.
Is there any difference?
Oh, yeah, big difference.
Big difference, because one's called an advisor and one's called an agent.
It's spelled differently. I mean, geez, Anna.
Yeah.
Man, you call yourself a podcaster.
But, how often Tom Wielander's name has been mentioned this season? By media, by the team itself. He's becoming the new Guillaume Brisebois. You know what?
Free the breeze.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Alvin didn't really. I mean, Alvin's reserved, right? He says things, but he
says a lot of things, but he doesn't really tell you anything.
Yeah,
he's pretty good at that, actually.
Yeah. And then there's Jim Rutherford, who he's not fined for tampering.
Yeah. He is just I mean, he's not Jim Benning, God forbid, but
Jim Benning occurred to me just not to be smart enough to realize he was doing it, whereas Jim Rutherford, he knows exactly what he's doing.
Yeah, he's been around the block enough.
And the choices he makes to say what he says...
And what he said was that he will do anything to keep Quinn Hughes, including trying to bring the other Hughes brothers.
Okay, he didn't explicitly say that, but
that's very important to know, actually.
What he did say was that, with Quinn, it might not be a money thing. He has, articulated he wants to play with his brothers, and maybe, we'll do everything we can to, keep Quinn and make him happy and give him what he wants. Honest to goodness, if Jim Rutherford had, during that press conference been asked, what color is your underwear? And he had answered, it is blue with yellow polka dots. It would not have shocked me because he would have gone that extent, told you where he bought it. And by the way, Lou Lamoriello wears the same brand.
Oh, yeah. By the way, thank God Lou Lamoriello is out of a job. Can we stop giving...
Well, you know what I mean,
old hockey men.
But that's the extent to
yes.
which Rutherford was sharing information. Mm-hmm. I see the thing. What Rutherford is saying, we all agree. Quinn is everything. Their team needs to build around Quinn. And Quinn has said, he's articulated he wants to be here. He takes the C seriously. He wants the team to succeed. I struggle to see how they're going to make all of this happen.
Yeah, realistically.
And, asked about PD, Rutherford said that they have to, evaluate all things and make no rash decisions, which it really equated to being if we could trade him, we will.
Yeah.
That's how I interpret it. I'm not saying he's going out there to make a deal, but he doesn't,
for sure.
He doesn't buy into what PD has for sale. I don't know if PD is selling, but...
And I think we've talked about this before, but by far the best option is PD figures it out and that he goes back to the player he was for most of last year. And not to say that, you should never trade him, it's more just what you will get for him, I think. If he never figures it out, like, sure, like, trade him, like, if that's your real insight. But
But that's the thing is, he needs to figure it out in, was it 3 months?
right.
No, 2. Because we're almost to May, so
Yeah,
on
like,
July
I mean,
1 is when that.
yeah, you've got to make the decision now whether he's going to figure it out. And I would say, like, there's encouraging signs before his injury. It's definitely not enough to be convinced in any way, but
Yeah. Someone in Canucks Reddit, so they, Jim Rutherford speaks, Canucks Reddit reacts. Someone had suggested I would trade all the Pedersons for the Hughes. And, at first when I saw it, I'm like, get out of here. But then I'm thinking,
I mean, I would too.
right? Like,
I wouldn't want, that's like not my preferred option, but like I
feel-
would, yeah.
I feel it's an overpay. But,
Yes, but because of the situation,
but
that's
I could find it a palatable overpayment.
Mm-hmm.
All the
presuming,
Pedersons
by the way, that
for the Hugheses. 2
Jack
Hughes, 3 Pedersons.
is kind of going to be able to come back from his injury.
Luke has made it very clear he doesn't want to leave New Jersey. So
Apparently, like, is Luke Hughes okay? Didn't he go off during the... I don't know if he played today, but he...
I don't know.
He left.
Well, New Jersey
the
doesn't have any
previous
defensemen
game,
left.
so yeah. I mean, considering that, they're doing pretty well in the playoffs, but I think
Down 3-1 to Carolina.
yeah, I think they're not long for this world.
No. That is the New Jersey Devils, not the Hughes brothers.
Yeah.
Baby Canucks. They're having some success up Highway 1.
Yeah. If you haven't seen any of the first round series, so like AHL playoffs are weird. The first round is 3 games. It took all 3 for Abbotsford Canucks to make it through their round. The first game was just the most insane game I think I've seen in a while. Like, there was, like, I mean, I think culminating in a penalty shot with 30 seconds left that Tucson needed to score to tie the game, and Sheilov saved it. But yeah, it's kind of crazy. There was, like, Tucson scored short-handed. Yeah, it was just, like, a crazy game, but it was very entertaining, even though it just was more dramatic than it needed to be. And Abbotsford's game 3, Abbotsford was completely took over the game. Shutout from Sheilov's.
Playoff Shelos is
It's another beast. Yeah. Because I would say there is some legitimate concerns, especially as he spent a lot of time at the end of the regular season bench warming for the adult Canucks. Yeah.
And Tolopilo,
He's
decent.
decent.
Got the phone call
Yeah.
for the big club too, right? Over
Yeah.
Shelos.
But, yeah, he looked really good, I would say. I think it was his birthday that day.
What, Tolopilo or Shelos?
Sheilov's, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Max Sasson, whatever we're supposed to say, sorry. He looked so good. Like, you kind of want, like, players at the AHL level to take over to sort of show that they have that NHL level of compete, and Max Sasson is doing that.
So Max Sasson is Max Sasson, not Min Sasson?
Yes.
Okay. I understand Lekaramaki is Lekaramissi.
Yeah. I also, like, that sounds like a joke about Lionel
Messi?
Yeah, Lionel missing.
I wasn't actually trying to do that.
But yeah.
Okay. I understand Lekaramaki is considered the hockey version of Lionel Messi.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally legit.
We'll see. Like, he hasn't done anything of note yet.
Why isn't DPD there? I'm just reading your rundown.
Why isn't he there? It seems such a strange decision to me. given
okay,
Artu Ratu is playing. Like, I get
he
it.
wasn't papered down.
Yes, I know. No, like, don't get me wrong. Like, he can't play. He is not allowed to play because he was not papered down by the deadline. It just seems odd to me. Like, don't get me wrong. DPD has had a great season at the NHL level. I think he has earned his spot on the NHL roster. But he's still, like,
So
less than 2 seasons into being a pro. He's won in a tiny bit.
based on how I understand it, the Vancouver Canucks had actually run out of call-ups and were in a position that if they had papered him down, the only way to get him back into Vancouver was through an emergency call-up. But the rules around emergency call-ups are different than a regular call-up.
Yes,
And
which
as a
we know.
they made the big club made the decision that they would prefer DPD stay as a regular call-up as opposed to the emergency. Now,
Yes.
I don't know the logistics. Like
I know it's an odd one because of the emergency call-up thing. I do know that it has to be a legit emergency, but like they got one for Thatcher Demko being sick. I guess he was sick, but
but DPD was like a roster player with other roster players sitting in the box at the time, right? It wasn't until late in the season when Forbort got hurt that the blue line was in sort of the emergency position.
yeah,
I think, right? Like again, I don't know, but yeah, DPD. It is a shame that he's not.
because like I
playing.
think Artu Ratu, who I think should also be at least strongly considered for an NHL roster spot next year. I think he's really shown some really good case for that in the last months of the season. Not only just because he can take faceoffs and no one else can, but I think he's developing. He's playing, and I think that does him good. It's also fun. Just there's a bunch of veterans that are playing really well, who are never gonna make the NHL team. But the captain, Chase Waters, playing really well. Tristan Nielsen, who again may play for the Canucks, but not as an everyday NHLer. Jujar Kara, the sort of vet player as well. So that's fun.
And then one final note about Vancouver hockey news. The rumor that Vancouver would be getting a PWHL franchise is no longer a rumor. It is fact. Planning to kick things off next PWHL season, the Vancouver franchise, with a yet-to-be named name, though the colors have been shared, was originally rumored to be one of 2 franchises to join the PWHL, the other being Seattle. But there has been no word about Seattle, no announcement quite yet. And in sort of post-announcement press conferences, well, we like Seattle, but nothing to share there yet. Regardless, the PWHL, takeover tour sold out the Raj. It was a raucous crowd for 2 non-Vancouver teams. And if there's something you know about the Vancouver sports market, non-Vancouver teams generally don't generate as much heat.
Yeah.
But in this particular scenario, the team will be playing out of the Pacific Coliseum. They have a practice facility. They are going to be practicing in the Agrodome right next door, which, if you're keeping score at home, PWHL franchise without a name, practice facility 1. Vancouver Canucks, who have been trying to get a practice facility since 1932, 0.
Yeah, and that was something we didn't mention from Rutherford's press conference where he said that it's ongoing, the effort, and maybe the effort will continue going until he is dead.
Well, so Sakaris and Price were talking about this on their show, and I think it was Price that said, if the PWHL franchise is going to be practicing in the Agrodome, why don't the Canucks just partner with them? Apparently the league, as well as the city of Vancouver, who owns it, and probably the province kicking in some bucks, they're going to be renovating the Agrodome and the Pacific Coliseum to make it, up to PWHL standard. I'm sure the Canucks could have gotten in on this action. I'm not suggesting the Agrodome is ideal from a location perspective for their needs, but it's a practice facility.
Yeah, and we know, like, the sort of challenges with building anything new in Vancouver. Like, space is at a premium, let's put it that way. The way Aquilini needs to understand better than anyone, the way the development market works is sometimes strange. But yeah, it does seem crazy to me. But, like, to focus on the exciting part, like, yeah, PWHL, I think it's so great. The buzz is plentiful. I was at that Takeover Tour game. It was definitely, yeah, it was rocking, but there was definite, like, appetite for a team. I think that was even a chant while we were there, was we want a team.
Yeah. I genuinely think the market would love to buy in and support a PWHL franchise. I offer one word of caution. The Vancouver sports market does not tolerate unsuccessful teams for too long. And I want to ensure that our listeners, need to realize they are going to be an expansion franchise. There will be an expansion draft. They're going to be, was it 3 seasons behind? Or 2 seasons?
2.
2, okay, 2 seasons behind, established teams. So,
yeah,
I'm not trying to say they're not going to be a good team. We don't know. But understand there could be, some rough patches.
I mean,
and some growing pains.
Think more Seattle Kraken than Vegas Golden Knights.
Exactly.
Yeah. And on the Seattle note, there's been an announcement that there's going to be a
they have now
presser at Climate Pledge.
Okay, so
I wonder what that could be in relation to. So yeah, they're getting a team, which is good because, like, Minnesota being the closest team.
Well, and that question came up. Like, what about travel? Well, we'll figure this out. I think logistically, teams are going to be coming here and playing like a couple of games, and
like a baseball type schedule, like we saw with the COVID year, the North Division year.
And when Vancouver goes on a road trip, it'll be a road trip. Like, it'll be a long haul. Anyhow, we'll know more.
It's exciting, and they are actually playing in the city of Vancouver, which is exciting. They're going to be the only team. I think the only team in the league that has its sole use of its arena, as in they are not sharing with another team. Obviously, there's going to be a ton of other events.
I know the Vancouver Giants play in the Langley Event Center, but I thought they would occasionally return to the Pacific Coliseum for the teddy bear toss and stuff like that. Is that not the case anymore?
That's not the case anymore. They actually played the teddy bear toss at Rogers 3 years ago, maybe more. Okay. Maybe it was pre-COVID, and they haven't done that for a while. The teddy bear toss is such a cool game, and I've been to it, I think, at the Coliseum and at Rogers. It's a cool AHL tradition, but I'm not going to Langley.
I'm close, and it's hard for me to get to.
Yeah.
Playoffs are going on in the rest of the league. We don't really talk about it. As I said, NHL hockey is pretty much done for me. Washington and Montreal are having a series.
That's that one and the Dallas, Colorado are the entertaining ones to me. Come get me if the Battle of Ontario gets to 3 apiece, but...
Oh gosh, if that were to be the case, Ottawa wins.
Yes, for sure. I mean, I think if they win...
I thought Toronto was going to win it in 4. Good in the sense
didn't.
No? I mean...
And I think Toronto are a much stronger, team. And they should...
No, I wasn't saying Toronto was going to win in 4. But when they were up 3-0, going in... When Toronto tied that game 4 up to go into overtime, I'm like, Toronto.
I see what you mean.
Honest to goodness.
Fair enough.
If you had asked me, hey, Chris, what predictions do you have? I haven't a clue.
Yeah.
I'm just so checked out.
Please see my playoff bracket, where I picked Dallas to win so long ago that I was just too stubborn to change that.
Okay. But yeah, we'll in 2 weeks' time get to tell you what's going on in round 2 of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Before we take a break, we are going to be going into the F word, and I want to provide everyone a content warning that the topic that we are going to be discussing deals with sexual assault. And I can appreciate that type of information might not be appropriate for all, or a topic that those of you who do listen to our show are in a position to listen to. So please take this opportunity to understand, short break, musical transition, and a tough topic. We will be back for those who do turn off the show in 2 weeks' time. And you're listening to the C4 Canucks Hockey Podcast, brought to you by Anna and Chris.
He liked to say the F word.
Oh, then get the here then. Okay, see ya.
Is going to have the F word on it.
I wish I could give you an explanation about it. I can't.
You said the F word, Dad.
You called me the F word.
So over the course of this past week, the first trial of the Hockey Canada 5 regarding the alleged sexual assault of an, I believe, unnamed woman. Not that I'm suggesting her name should be released, but I'm fairly confident it's unnamed at this point. Got underway, jury was selected. It was then declared a mistrial. The reasons as to why the mistrial was granted are under a publication ban. We don't know.
And I believe the media
We
have
wouldn't get
challenged
into it.
that.
Yeah, the media have challenged that, but at
I
this
haven't
point
heard
in time,
anything about
yeah,
that.
as of recording, we know that a mistrial has occurred. The judge has asked for a new jury to restart the trial. I don't know if that second jury has been selected yet.
Yes.
It has? Okay. But that is as much as what has sort of occurred to this point. All five in the initial trial prior to mistrial had pled not guilty. I presume if they have pled again, they've all pled not guilty. And that is sort of where things stand. The unfortunate part of all of this really comes down to the fact that these types of cases are hard to prove. As, you know, again, we know we've seen no evidence presented in the trial. Nothing has been shared to this extent. But in most court cases that deal with sexual assaults or worse, it is often presented as one party said this, one party said that. What little we do know, though, is that this trial is likely going to deal with the matter of consent.
Yeah, and I did actually want to say something on that, because there was a little, on the reporting of the opening statements, there was a bit of a mention of consent, and I do know this wasn't a word-for-word reporting of the opening statement, so I don't know exactly what's being said, but something that wasn't mentioned or not, that I didn't hear about was, like, what consent is, and I think that's, like, a hugely, unfortunately, murky topic. And just to be clear, I feel like it's worth saying that consent has to be all of these things, which is freely given, like, and that's a huge one, and I think that will be, like, really important in this trial in particular. Reversible. You can change your mind at any time. Must be informed. Must be specific. You know, you can consent to doing one thing does not mean consent to doing others. It must be enthusiastic. It must be mutual from both parties. It is an ongoing thing, and it must be coherent. That is to say, if you are too drunk to consent, like, it's not consent, you know? And yes, I think that's going to come up a lot because in this case, there is obviously some recorded consent from the victim, and I use that word advisedly. That is how the anonymous woman wishes to be referred to as a victim. But yes, just because someone says, yeah, like, this is okay, doesn't mean it actually is. Like, consent has to be all of those things that I discussed.
The, thing though that of what you've said there that resonates the most though, because of, again, the potential of consent being recorded, is consent can be withdrawn at any point in time. And that withdrawal does not have to be explicit, right? Like it can be in implied withdrawal,
Yeah, and that goes to the enthusiastic part, I guess, as well. The reversible, and when we say specific, I think I mentioned it in relation to certain acts, but also is specific to a person. And I think that is also part of the case. If anyone is wanting to know more about that, there's a book called Night Games, which is about what I will call, because that's how it's referred to in the book, group sex within Aussie rules football, and basically in relation to women consenting to having sex with a player, and then other players
not
being
to make
involved.
light, but when you said in Aussie rules
Yeah,
football,
I know.
I'm like,
Sorry.
I often describe cricket as Aussie rules baseball. Is that the direction we're going? But no, we're actually specifically
No,
talking
Aussie
about
rules
a
football,
circumstance.
which, if you know anything about that, that's a huge, Aussie rules football is the biggest sport in Australia, without a doubt, and the sort of the status those players enjoy might be similar to hockey players in Canada.
Okay. Yeah, I also want to sort of point out that if anyone, and I mean, I know most of our listeners are probably more in line with us. Those who weren't may no longer listen. But the amount of people that bring up the, innocent until proven guilty, you're right.
That's how the legal system works. Yeah.
It's this, the legal system is designed to ensure that the state has to presume innocence prior to being proved guilty in a court of law. But it doesn't completely absolve responsibility. And when we look at the statistics of those who were to suggest, the number, what if they were falsely accused?
It's just so low.
The false accusations are, I believe, single percent.
Oh yeah,
and potentially
definitely.
even more negligible than that.
Yeah. And the amount of assaults that get reported, and you only have to look to a comment section in any of these stories as to see why that is the case. We should also mention that, I believe this was a couple weeks ago, this came out now, but Artemi Panarin, for the second time in his career, has been accused of sexual assault. And this came about because the settlement that was given to the complainant, who was at the time a member of staff for the New York Rangers, that story was leaked, and the amount of people that come and say, well, it's someone looking for money, or clout, or whatever it is,
Yeah, and I don't even want to sort of justify the comment by suggesting that could be the case, because it's not going to be the case. In nearly all situations, and think of it in the terms of how you're framing it. If you're trying to suggest that the false accusation is the worst harm, reverse that. Prove that.
Yeah.
Prove that beyond a reasonable doubt. Apply the same, legal measure. And you know what? I would have to concede that is likely just as hard to prove. But the point is that you, Anna, and I choose to believe the victims.
Yeah. It's just, if you're trying to make money out of a hockey player or hockey organization, that is, you would be doing so at the cost of, in this case, your employment. And we should say, like, the reason that this person lost their job wasn't to do with that, but it was related. But, enormous social cost, not to mention how you're treated, like, on the internet and at large. Like, you just don't go around doing that. Like, it's not the way to make money at all.
No, not at all.
And
Anyhow.
yeah, just wanted to finally say about just this is an ongoing problem in hockey, in the NHL. And it will sort of continue to be until the NHL sort of confronts it in a meaningful way. When teams stop having hush funds, when the league decides to do something more meaningful than a tiny fine to an organization that has systematically dealt so badly with sexual assault in the way that Chicago Blackhawks did. And this is not limited to, like, we've called it out on Vancouver too. Like, we've signed players that have had sexual assault and other assault allegations during their career. So it is a hockey-wide problem. It is, like, yeah, it is ongoing.
Yeah. And it's hockey, but all professional sports.
It is. And obviously this is a hockey podcast. That's where we're going to talk about it. I do think there is something specific to hockey. Not that it's a bigger problem in hockey, but the way it's a problem in hockey, I do think is to do with the culture and the culture of Canada and hockey as a sport. But yeah, like, NHL does not have a domestic violence policy. Like, that's something, at least.
There are those in the NHL would tell you because we don't have a domestic violence problem.
Yeah, because if you don't talk about it, it doesn't exist.
Exactly, right. Yeah.
Anyway, there it is.
So, over the course of the summer, we'll be paying attention to this trial, as many of you will be. We are not the type of show to shy away from these topics, and we will keep you as informed as we can. But we are at the point where we are going to wrap this particular show up. I had mentioned it earlier prior to break. We'll be back in 2 weeks' time. We're on an off-season schedule. The only reason as to which we would probably come back within a week is some massive Vancouver Canucks news that needs to be dealt with in a timely manner. Don't imagine that's going to occur. If anything,
I mean, you say that
Canucks, now. I know, I've cursed us, but the Vancouver Canucks have not had a history of making a big splash during the postseason when the NHL playoffs are on. Once the playoffs are over, all bets are off. But yeah, I've cursed us. We'll be back next week because some big news will have dropped. If you've reached this point of the show, though, and you're like, hey, I'd like to support these podcasters, well, you can do so by going to buymeacoffee.com/C4podcast. Buy me a coffee, or as Anna and I like to call it,
Buy me a pint.
And you can throw a few bucks our way to quite literally buy us a pint. But if you want to support us on a more regular basis, signing up to support us monthly at $5 a month, or alternatively over the course of an entire year for $50, you get access to C4 Off the Rails, which I will be very honest, I've been negligent in posting. This week there are going to be 3 C4 OTR episodes published. Because I've been sitting on 2, and we're going to record another one now. I want to give myself a little bit of a mea culpa here. I've been battling the plague for the last few weeks. My daughter's softball season has started up, and I'm the head coach. Work has been crazy busy, and I'm surprised I've been able to record these podcast episodes with you, Anna. Although, if I recall 2 weeks ago, I didn't sound so good.
You really didn't. Honestly, you sound good now. So I am
feeling much better than I was 2 weeks ago.
With that all this time.
But yeah, the plague. And again, I call it the plague. If you have a school-aged child, you know what the plague is. It's whatever your child brings home from school that you have to suffer through, because they bounce back after a day and you bounce back after a month, hopefully. If you want to follow us on social media, we are on most at the C4 Podcast on X, at the Real C4 Podcast on Threads, at c4podcast.com on Blue Sky, C4 Discord, where we take part in a variety of different conversations, including championship hot dog sandwiches. That is to discord.io/C4 Podcast. And Anna and I are also on all the social media. She's A4Size03 and I'm Lightforce. It varies from platform to platform, but we are individually consistent. Mm-hmm. And our entire back catalog can be found at c4podcast.com. But Anna, any final words of wisdom for our listeners this week?
No, I'm excited for PWHL Vancouver. Please pick a cool name.
Mm-hmm. Which hopefully they do, and they're not the Vancouver Hockey Club.
What about the Vancouver Pink Panthers?
Well, my daughter's team is the Pink Puppies, so...
Oh, that was it. I was trying to remember.
Yeah, don't worry. I mean, and it's puppies with a YS, not an IES, because heaven forbid...
Because they're cool.
We'd want to spell it the way Daddy suggested. Or, sorry, Coach Chris. Mm-hmm. Anyhow, on behalf of Anna, A4Size03, myself, Chris Lightforce, I'm going to sign off this episode of the C4 Canucks Hockey Podcast with We Out.